Tell everybody your name.
Oh, my name is Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie. Beautiful name. She drops in on us about once every 3 or 4 or 6 months, just to let us know she's still on this plane.
Still alive, right?
Yeah. For you folks who haven't been here, I usually do a little writing before class to get the flow started. This is Wednesday night channeling number 150, Aloha. And the title is called Your Being. He says, your being is the being of divine light, love, and life, all of life. Within you exists all that is, in all of life, in the whole of the universe, the cosmos, all dimensions. You are the whole of life, expressing as you find yourself. You may not be aware of the wholeness of the divinity that you are. Your lack of conscious awareness, come in folks, your lack of conscious awareness of your godhood is your plan for more growth. Yet you are the whole of all that is. Your little finger or big toe is an individual expression of your physical body, yet it is one with the whole body. You are an atom in the body of life, in the body of God, yet you are one with every atom in all of life. To bring your being to this conscious awareness, you must leave the illusions behind and learn to love. Love unconditionally. Love as God loves. Divine love is the key to all things. Love life, all of life. Love the life that is your body, no matter how many imperfections it appears to have. Love it unconditionally. Love your mind, no matter how many hang-ups it appears to have. Love it unconditionally. Love your family, neighbor, friend, so-called enemy, no matter what the conditions seem to be. My beloveds, you will never escape the rigors, disease, or pain of this planet Earth unless you learn to love unconditionally. Okay. Good evening, my beloveds. This is Aloha, coming to you from these realms of love and light. And I want to welcome the new ones here in God's love and let you know that all are welcome because we are all the family of life. And my dear Josie, I come at your bidding, and I am joking a little bit here, and want you to know that it was with joy when you asked the question last week, and the explanation tried to be explained. We encourage Donald to take it easy today and not work the physical work that he loves to do and wants to do and thinks he has to do. And so we are able to come through in a much clearer and better way this evening. I want you to know that there are many, many here who love you dearly. And you who have not been here before, realize that your teachers and guides, your loved ones from this side of life, are with you always. You are never alone. You are never alone. Whenever you remember to send God's love to all the invisibles around you, it is with joy that they think of you, and it opens the door so that they can realize and help you to realize the greater extent of life that you are. I would remind those new ones to take one of the write-ups of Donald's on sending God's love. It is a beautiful and wonderful thing when we see you from these realms sending God's love, opening your hearts and your minds to allow yourself to be a channel for God to work through. There are many, many helpers that take God's love to wherever you send it. And when you send it unlabeled, it is much more powerful and power-filled because they can take it where God directs it, where it is most needed. Our title tonight, called Your Being, is a very important thing for you to understand and to realize who you truly are. And I tell you, those who have studied many years in this incarnation still forget who you are at times. And it is something that you need to be reminded of. Within your being is the whole of life, not just part of life, my dear ones, but the whole of life. Within your being is God Himself. God is everywhere present, but He is the life force that you are. You cannot escape life because life is eternal, with no beginning and no end. So you have placed yourself in the conditions and the place that you find yourself at this time for your growth. Try not to strain and struggle against life as you find it. Try to accept whatever you find yourself in the midst of, knowing that you have created it yourself. This may rub you the wrong way to have someone tell you that it is your doing whatever happens in your life. But my dear ones, when you know this, when you understand it, then you can learn how to undo it and do it the way you want it to be. Do it the way of love. Divine love is the key to all things. God's love will heal any ills. Enough of God's love. Enough of God's love will solve any problems. Enough of God's love will even stop a war. As you look at your planet in this day and time, as you think of it, be not concerned. It is as the collective consciousness of the people of your planet has created it to be. Whatever you sow, so shall you reap, the Master said. And so it is sometimes centuries, years before this reaping comes about, but it must be reaped unless enough individuals on your planet can send enough of God's love, can be a channel for God to work through, and rise above the darkness and illusions of this plane to know the truth. When enough individuals can let God's light and love flow through them to a great extent, this planet will brighten up as your brightest star that you see in your heavens. This planet will become a heaven on earth. It is on the way to being that. You may not think so as you look at it now, but I promise you that this is in the making in this new age, as you call the Aquarian age. In the next 2,000 years, your planet will be as heaven on earth. For the vibrations are increasing, not just increasing, but accelerating every day. And as you look about you and see all the crime, all the illness, and the new diseases and the war, it is difficult for you to accept what I have just said. But take heart, my dear ones. This is a cleansing process, and it must come about to bring about your heaven on earth. When you have a blood that is infected, that is diseased, then it must be cleansed. And there are those whose organs do not work correctly, and they have to change their blood ever so often. And it is with the whole planet and the entities who dwell on this planet. You have created these conditions, not just the ones who are here now, but the ones who are involved with this planet, that, let us say, maybe around 20 billion or more, who are in between incarnations at this time, some of them. They are all involved, and they are working from this side of the veil. Those who are in the light and have the understanding. I would speak to you a little bit tonight about the realms of darkness and dimness. They are close to your earth plane, and they do have a great influence on this earth plane and the individuals who are open to this kind of thinking. My dear ones, your thinking creates your life as it is, especially your repeated habit patterns of thinking. And when millions and millions, and now in the billions, are thinking negative, fear-filled thoughts most of the time, then you create what is close to a hell on earth. I am speaking bluntly to you tonight, as I do not usually do, but I have the commission to speak to you in plain language so that you understand. There are many, many on the dark realms in the universe, and they go on and on. They are here on the dark realms because some of them choose to be, a few of them choose to be, but most of them are here because they do not understand. You could say ignorance, but lack of understanding of the real laws of life is the reason that they are trapped on these realms of darkness and dimness. Let us talk about your circle of light that we have not spoken of tonight, and for the new ones to help them to realize that when you come together in a circle of light like this, you throw out a psychic light, shall we say, and it attracts those on the dark realms. The dark realms is what the churches think of as hell. It is not a pit of fire. It is almost the opposite. It is cold and dank and depressing and miserable because of the consciousness of those who live on these realms of darkness and dimness. And they're very close to your earth plane. And when you think negative, fearful thoughts, you open the door to these dark realms, and they can come in and put you down farther. But when you know how to send God's love, when you know how to bring yourself quickly up from these negative thoughts and recognize that you are thinking negative thoughts, that you are feeling and negative and fear, you have the attitude that no one loves you and your mood is gloomy and all these things, you see, you open the door to those who are on the dark realms, and they come in and bring all their cousins with them. There was a time when I gave an example to another class that think of yourself as an island of light. Think of yourself as an island of light with darkness all around you. And when you think one negative thought, this lets a chink in your armor of light and opens a door, and this negative thought allows one of darkness to come in with all its cousins, and there you are. And it snowballs at times until you realize what you have done and immediately recover by using your understanding of God's love. Pardon Donald's body. When you understand that you are a co-creator with God and that you are one with Him and have the power that God is and has, then you can use it to bring about the correction of any mistake, so-called. You can use it to help those on the dark realms. And I admonish you to send God's love to those in darkness everywhere, several times a day, but many other places also. Send God's love to your war going on, to all of those who are searching for God and do not know how to find Him, and maybe do not even know what they're searching for. There are many, many things that you can use, that you can send God's love to. You can use this tool, my dear ones, to a great advantage. And let me remind you that it is like a two-edged sword. As it goes through you to help others and conditions, it automatically helps you. When you are sending God's love, you are not thinking fearful thoughts. When you are thinking of God and being grateful for all the beautiful things that he has given you, and thanking him for just life. God has given you life. He has brought you into being as a living, breathing entity as he is. Think how wonderful and marvelous this is. Yes, you have left his home and dropped yourself to these lower realms for experience. This was not a fall, but you did it on purpose to have the experience, to know more about life, to know more about yourself, and to gain spiritual strength and power. When you do not have something to push against with your physical body, then your muscles deteriorate, and you need to exercise them. And it is the same with your spiritual muscles. You need something to push against. And we stay in the Godhead, or the Garden of Eden, for many eons of time. But then there comes the place in consciousness when you want to have a different experience, and you come down to these dimensions that takes eons and eons of time to come down to. And now, my dear ones, you are on your way back. You are on your way back home. Be patient with yourself. This is one of man's greatest enemies, besides pride, is patience. Fear, pride, and patience all go together. They are woven from the same cloth. And if you can see this within yourself and recognize when you are taking credit, you could not even lift your little finger, my dear ones, without the power of God. And when you take credit for the things that you achieve without thanking God and realizing it is God's power, now this can be a paradox if you allow it to be. When you are in the lower dimensions, you are shut off from a great deal of your understanding. Much of your godhood is held back from you at this time on these lower dimensions. And it is through learning to rise above this plane of illusion that you gain strength, spiritual strength and spiritual power, that you gain understanding. And through love and gratitude and a desire to be your true self, you can accomplish all things. I tell you, this is true, no matter how you feel at this time, no matter how helpless you may feel, no matter what happens around you or to you at times. You have chosen to have these experiences. And to some of you this may seem like a slap in the face, but it is true, my dear ones. You have chosen to be where you are now, to have the conditions in your life that you have. You have chosen wisely, even though it may not seem so. The Master Teacher said, "Judge not by appearances, but judge righteous judgment." Right useness of the law. Whenever you know the truth, the eternal truth, then you can realize that whatever condition you find yourself in, whatever besets you, is not trouble and problems, but opportunities. Opportunities. When you can look at everything in your life as an opportunity and be grateful for this opportunity, even though it may seem a disaster at the moment from your little self thinking. Whenever you can rise above this, and the sooner you can do it, the better, there will come a time when all of you will be able to immediately recognize the truth and say, "Thank you, Father, for this experience. Now show me what to do with it. I send your divine love into this experience and into all your helpers that are from higher dimensions to help me to comprehend this, to help me to understand where I got off the path of light and love, and how I can make the correction so that this need not happen again." As you learn to think in these terms, as you learn to raise your consciousness with divine love, as you learn to give credit where credit is due, and be grateful in all things, then your heart sings a song of joy. And no matter how much pain your body may have, no matter how much depression you may be tempted to let yourself fall into, you do not have to. You can talk to God at any time because He is the life force that you are. He's closer to you than your hands and your feet and your head and your breath, because you and God are one. There is no separation. And when you ask, believing, then you will receive. Much of your conditioning from the past has been conditioning of feeling of lack, thinking that you are a lowly creature that has no power of its own, that has to be swept this way and that way by the tide of events and circumstance. And when you hold on to these negative beliefs, these illusionary beliefs, then of course that is what happens to you, because you have created it with your belief, with your thinking. And when you realize that you can change this thinking, and let me remind you that most of the time you are not consciously aware that you are thinking these kind of thoughts. It is an undercurrent of subconscious thinking. It is a preconditioning, and it has been there so long that you think it to be natural, or do not even think about it. But you can change. God's love is all-powerful and all-wise, and when you allow it to enter your consciousness, when you allow it yourself to be a channel for God to work through, then you start moving upward. It does not happen overnight, my dear ones. It does not happen instantly. It may seem that way sometimes. And a good example is in your New Testament. It says that Paul had this experience on the road to Damascus. And before this experience, he was killing the Christians. And afterwards, he knew the truth. But let me ask you to consider, my dear ones, how many lifetimes of spiritual study and work was behind that one instant. Many lifetimes of spiritual growth was behind that one instant that brought about the awakening, conscious awakening of his true identity. And it still was not complete, and he continued to have problems with his body and his thinking, but he was turned around and moving upward instead of downward. And so it is with you, my dear ones. You do not have to stay in the same old rut. Realize this. Know it to be true. And no matter how long it takes, continue to work. And even though it does not seem that anything is happening, if you continue to work with God's love, to take the time to go within and talk to God, to give yourself positive thoughts and affirmations, as you call them, bring about the change in your thinking patterns. Something is happening when you work at it. And as you move higher in consciousness, you realize that it is truly not work, but it is joy. It is a joyful thing to take the time out of your day to spend a little time inward. Most of your time is spent in the outer world with your five senses, and your attention is glued on the illusions of the physical plane. And my dear ones, the physical plane is illusion. But when you take some of your time to go within and talk to God and move into the light at the center of your being and let it become brighter and brighter, and let God's love be there in your conscious awareness and feel the presence of his love. Continue to do this until you rise above the misunderstandings that you have about life, where you truly can. You have the power that God has. Know this. Truly know it. You have the power, all the power that God is and has at your command. But you must use it. Now here's another thing that sometimes confuses individuals when they try to do this, and they take a little time to go within and feel the presence, and they do have a good contact, and then they spend a lot of time thinking negative thoughts, fearful thoughts as they go through their day. You see, they're taking one step forward and two steps backward, or so, as an example, and they wonder why it isn't working. It has to be a consistent thing, and it will be if you continue to work with yourself, continue to practice. Your physical body becomes tired at times as you think of it, and it is only tired because you have allowed something to shut your conscious awareness away from the God power that dwells within you. You have allowed your five senses to trick you into believing in the illusions of the physical plane, and so this has drained you of your understanding and the real truth, and so you become depleted. But I tell you, if you continue to work, if you continue to grow, this will become a habit to know the truth, and the habits will change. You will eliminate those negative, fear-filled habits, and you will replace them with God's love and His presence in your conscious awareness. It must be the conscious awareness of God's presence in, around, and through you in everything that you experience before you can arise above this plane of illusion and remain there. This is a good group tonight, a nice circle of light. And let me remind you that your teachers and guides are there with you. And there is another circle of beings who have come from many places to be with you and to learn as you're learning, because they did not have the opportunity when they were in the physical to have this kind of experience. They had no concept of life after death, and most of them had no understanding of anything but the physical plane. Let us stop at this time and have a little quiet time and think of God's love as flowing through us and around the circle and gaining momentum and building up. And let us send love to all the invisibles around us, to our teachers and our guides, and let us renew our understanding. Feel this happening as we become quiet for a moment or two. Use your inner image, your imagination. It is the magic genie within you. Use it to see this and to know that it is happening. To know that you are being filled to overflowing with the conscious awareness of God's presence. And this circle of light that you have come together in one accord is building much power and spreading all over this planet and going out to the galaxy and to the whole universe. God's love is without limit. God's love is all-powerful and all-wise. Let it be the tool that brings you back home to Him. Let us see, with our inner image, one of God's helpers that is very close to Him, standing in the middle of this circle, a great giant being of light that rises far above the roof of this building. And let us see a spoke of light going out to each one of us and to all those who are not on the physical plane. And let us see this power being generated, because each one of us are in one accord, in agreement with the real truth of life. And as this continues to build, let us take this time to ask questions, if you will. At this time, we do not answer personal questions, but spiritual questions. Feel free to speak and be as much a part. Realize that you are as much a part of the channel as the one who speaks. Are there questions or comments that you would make tonight?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you for your presence here tonight and for listening to.
Yes, you are truly welcome, my dear one. And I need not tell you that God loves you very dearly, and each and every one of his children in the whole of the universe. But you are becoming aware of this more and more, and many others of you in this circle are, and realize that everyone in the whole of life, no matter how deep and dark realm they're on, will awaken in their own time and understand and know God's love as you are learning to know it. The wind is playing with the chimes, if you can hear them, and bringing us a beautiful melody that reminds us of the celestial music that is all around you at all times. And as you raise your consciousness, you will be able to hear this beautiful music that is nothing like any music that you hear on the physical plane. Are there other questions this evening? I see questions in your minds that you're a little timid about asking. Be brave and allow yourself to be relaxed and at peace, and let us be one and feel free to converse. Some of you are thinking, well, my question has been answered in the lesson that was brought tonight, and you are still a little doubtful, some of you, but hold on to the enlightenment that you have. Let it grow, let it gain in power and strength through God's love. Know in the deepest part of your being that you are divine, that you are not what you appear to be on this physical plane. You are God's. Are there questions this evening?
I have a question.
Yes.
Like when I go to my friends on Wednesday, like I come over here and they ask me why I can't plan along anything, because I have to go to the still mom's, what's a hotel room. And then we say, what is that? And I explain to them what it is. Well, feel that's stupid, that's dumb, you shouldn't believe in that. Well, I want to know, it's why don't they believe in it?
This is where they are, my dear, and we do have to accept them. You are very fortunate at your age to be able to have a beautiful mother as you do, and you have chosen her to come through to teach her lessons as well as allow her to teach you lessons. But everyone is different. Everyone has their own place in life, and they will awaken to the truth, and they will understand. But do not be concerned about them or try to push your understanding upon them, but just love them and know that it is like an apple tree. When the apples are green, you don't pick them. You leave them on the tree and the sun will ripen them, and then the fruit is ready to be enjoyed. And so it is with each individual. We could call this whole of life the tree of life, and each of us are part of the fruit of the tree of life. And we are in different stages of growth and understanding. everyone is different from everyone else. The masses, most on your planet Earth, do not understand as your mother and you do, but they will in time. It may be another lifetime or two before they come to this understanding. But just send them love, and love them anyway, even though they do not understand. They are programmed and conditioned, maybe some of them by the churches they go to and what their parents believe. Just release them to God. Send them God's love, and know that all of them, that everyone, is in God's hands at all times and has God's protection. But they do have free will. Everyone has the freedom. God has given us the freedom to be and do as we want to be and do. And so they can choose and pick what they will do at this particular place in consciousness or this particular time. And so they choose to be where they are. But be grateful, my dear one, that you have chosen to be where you are. For you are a shining individual expression of God's love. And as you grow physically and continue to have a greater understanding, you will be an example to many, many others, a shining example. And that is what most listen to, is not your words, but how you live your life. And when you live your life with unconditional love, and this means that you love somebody no matter what they are doing or not doing, that you love them just because they are a child of God, and you give them the freedom to be as they are and not be concerned. Does this help your understanding, my dear? You're very welcome. It is rare that one as young as this one can have the consciousness and to speak up in a group of adults and be brave enough to do this. But the Master said, a little child shall lead you. And he said to be like the children, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, and you cannot enter the kingdom unless you become like them. Are there other questions this evening?
I have a question.
Yes.
My husband and I are studying the Course in Miracles, and every day they have a different lesson.
Yes.
Seems like sometimes it's so hard to even remember what the lesson is. And I was wondering if, when I think back on some of the times when I've been learning something, that it seems like you're always just underwater. You don't quite know if you're understanding what's happening, or that the trick of the subconscious to keep you from learning what you're about to learn.
Yes. In the Course in Miracles was a book that Jesus channeled through this lady who did not believe in it at the time, but it has great truth in it. And sometimes it seems a little confusing because of the intellectual way, shall we say, that she has written it. Or let me rephrase this. When anyone channels, Donald, anyone, it is colored a little bit by their consciousness. And this is why that when you go to different channels, it seems different. and it is as it should be, because it has to be filtered through that individual. But when you read the words, think of God's love and light in and around each word and in your mind, and be not concerned whether you consciously understand this, because your higher self, my dear, does understand. And it, by just going through this each day and reading these words, you are gaining an understanding, and this understanding will come to the surface as you need it. Does this make sense to you?
That was my next question, whether you should just keep reading something over and over until you understand it, or just keep moving along.
I think you should keep moving along, because you might read it 2 or 3 times, but do not just stop there until you receive full enlightenment on it, because your higher self, that part of you that is one with God, knows the truth and does understand. And when you read this or hear something, it is recorded, as you know, in your soul memory, and it is there. And when you need it in your physical life, it will come to the surface and be there to enlighten you. Be grateful for this opportunity to have this book and to have the direct contact from the Master. All is of God, even though it may seem to be negative, fearful, and without spirituality. It still is one of God's children that has brought it to life in words and language on your plane. And so indirectly, you see, it is of God, even though it might be some of your pornography, as you call it. And you would think, well, this is not spiritual. This is not of God. But in true reality, it is God's child that has brought this into being through their understanding on their level of consciousness at that moment. That's where they are in consciousness. So, judge not by appearances, but judge righteous judgment, and know the truth, and realize that everyone is doing the best they can at the moment. Not the best they know how intellectually or spiritually, but where they are in their conscious awareness, where they are with their past conditioning, their past programming, they are doing the best they can. Even the bank robber who kills, and this is what Donald says in one of his classes. It is very difficult to swallow for some people, but they are doing the best that they know how at the moment. When you go along with Shakespeare, when he said this is just a play on a stage and we're the actors and actresses, then it makes much more sense. And it is illusion. It is not real. It is just a play. There is no death. When you understand this, then so we have a war. It is an opportunity of learning and growth. And this present war that you may think is terrible, and from your physical surface understanding, it is. But when you see it from a very high spiritual understanding, it is an opportunity to bring all of your countries together. Not right away, but it is a beginning. it is a beginning to have one world and one small government, and that will fade into no government at all in what you think of as time. Did we get your question answered?
Yes, you
Did very well, thank you.
Are there other questions this evening?
I have a question.
Yes.
I was in making progress in this spiritually as time goes on. Like all that situation where what just on a physical note, it looked like a wonderful thing happened. Found a little dog and we became ours, and experienced the joy of having him the last couple weeks or whatever it's been. I won't say we lost him, but he's temporarily lost. And it kind of caught me off guard in regard to, I realized that I created bringing him into my life as much as I temporarily took him out of my life. And both situations happened so fast, and the fact that he, like I said, Jeff Erling disappeared today really caught me off guard, and kind of felt like I took 2 steps backwards in regard to any kind of growth. It took me several hours before I realized that it was an opportunity. And my question is, I'm wondering how I can maintain a handle on the fact that I should look at losing him as just as joyously an opportunity as finding her.
In other words, the dog wandered off and is lost. And realize that this is an opportunity, and this may be a dog that will be in a better place if it does not return. And you will find another that will be just as good, because God dwells in all dogs and all animals, all plants. Everything that exists is God. And just send love to the dog and know that it will find a home where people love it just as much as you do. And know that you will find something to take its place. Be grateful, yes, for the opportunity of realizing that it was not your dog. It is God's dog. It is life's dog. It is as much a part of life as you are. And so many think about their children this way. My children, my wife, my husband, possessiveness. And if something happens to disrupt how they think their spouse or their children should be, then they're devastated, because they have preconditioned in their thoughts how things should be. Be behind. You will have what you left with. So many think that whenever they go through this experience we call death, that they go to heaven and they know everything and everything is perfect. This is not as it is. You have exactly what you leave with except your physical body and your physical things. You have your consciousness. Now, when you get there, you, depending on where you are in your growth, may be able to open up the understandings that you have left when you came into the physical and have a greater understanding about things, But this depends on the individual and where they are in their soul's growth. Try not to think of any child of God as your possession, or think that they should do things to please you. This is one of the great mistakes in your relationships with each other, no matter whether it is a marital relationship or just a casual friend. If they do not do as you think they should do, then you are out of love with them, or you do not remain friends with them. And I'm not speaking to you personally, but the majority of the people on this planet. This is the way that they think. And this is possessiveness. All is one. We are all one in life. We possess all of life, but in love. When we deviate from divine love, then we are manifesting an illusion, and we know not the truth. Does this help your understanding?
Yes, thank you.
Are there other questions this evening?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it one aspect of our spiritual aerobics that we're doing, so to speak, sometimes when we go along and we think we're doing just fine, and then something is either said or we read something that sort of puts us into a tailspin, and we begin to think, well, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like what I thought I knew before. You know, did I have a wrong understanding before? And then we begin to do a lot of research, inner searching, I guess I should say. Is that what it is? Is this what we're manifesting, our spiritual aerobics, so to speak? Or is that a misconception?
This is an interesting title that you've given this. Everyone being an individual expression of life, and you are going to hear. Let us go back to the game called gossip. Remember this? When we were children, we would be in a circle like this, and one would whisper in the ear of another one and go clear around the circle, and it would not come out anyways near the way it started. And this is a little like what you are talking about. You are talking about reading something that is spiritual truth in one book, or a teacher saying this or that, and it seems to be the opposite or different than what you understood it to be. Is this the way it is? Yes. And you see, life is diversified in many, many ways, and many, many individuals have different understandings, are at different levels. And the ones who write books, they write from their understanding and what they know at that time. Now, 10 years from the time that they wrote the book, they might have a completely different understanding. And so it is that you will read or hear one thing from one individual, and it seems to be the opposite. But you are just hearing and reading from that individual's point of view, where they are in their soul's growth, where they are in their consciousness. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Yes. Yes, you will hear many different things. Let us say the metaphysical field. That is a broad spectrum, really, because there are many, many people that call themselves metaphysical that believe completely different in many, many different ways. But they are coming from where they are in their soul's growth, where their understanding is at that moment. And we should respect it. But you decide what is correct for you at that moment and accept that. And it does not mean that you will hold on to that same understanding, because if you're growing, you will have not a different understanding particularly, but a larger understanding as you moved up the path toward the light. There is much understanding brought to light when you ask questions, is there not?
Yes.
Yes. Are there other questions this evening?
I have a question.
Yes, speak a little louder, please, so it'll get on the tape.
Before you mentioned about all of our countries coming together and getting closer and being under one little government and eventually no government.
Yes.
Can you expound upon that?
This is our goal, not just as a planet, but as a universe. You know, there are many other planets that are much lower in consciousness than your planet, farther behind in their spiritual understanding, shall we say. And each country has a different understanding about God. And is it not amazing that all the wars are religious wars? And it's because that they have a different understanding. But as we grow, we move upward, and it is like we start from a very round circle, but as we grow, we come to a cone, and we come together in our understanding and enlightenment. And at that time, we can see through the eyes of God as one with God. It will take what you think of as time. It will take who knows how long, but it is predicted and thought that it will happen in this golden age that you call the Aquarian Age in the next 2,000 years, that we will become a one world instead of many different countries, and we will be on this planet and live in harmony and peace with each other. Is this close to what you asked about?
You're referring to it being on a spiritual government, spiritual level, rather than
On the physical.
My dear one, everything is spiritual, even though it appears not to be. It is just a different level of understanding. And we will come to a place where we can give each other the freedom to have their own understanding. You see, the war comes about because one country doesn't agree with the way the other country thinks about God. All of your wars are religious wars. They're caused from a different understanding of how to think of life, how to think of God, let us go into this a little deeper and realize that it is within each individual the conflict that is going on within them, the misunderstandings about themselves, the fear and anger and sometimes hatred that is going on inside the individual. And when one egotistical individual, such as you know who we're speaking of, takes control and uses this conflict within the individuals to rally them around them to conquer another country, to exploit them. You see, that is where the war is really going on, is within the individuals. And it has been said that if everyone on this planet was truly at peace within themselves, there would be no wars, because they would have no reason to war against each other. Does this help your understanding?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes. Are there other questions this evening?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
I've been getting a little confused lately because I get concerned about things of the physical, and then I have my work to do every day, and then something telling me just to keep doing what I'm doing, that I'm doing really fine. But then I don't know if it's my subconscious or the little self or whatever, and keeps wanting me to get concerned about this. So should I recognize this as an opportunity to, I don't know, work with it, or like, should I send love into it, or I don't know.
Let me make a comparison that has been made by many. Will you remember what you were worried about today 100 years from now? Probably not. Maybe not even 10 years from now, or maybe not even a year from now. So it is of little consequence, my dear, and I do not, let me take those words back. To you, it is something that needs to be understood, but in true reality, what you do on this physical plane is of little consequence compared to your spiritual understanding inside yourself. And if you allow your physical work or your position in life to interfere with your soul's growth, your inner enlightenment, you see, you are letting the illusions come in and take the place of truth. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Yes. This happens quite often. Happens to most of the people on this plane at some time in their sojourn in this incarnation. You see, it is like giving your life force, giving your attention, and remember that life force follows thought. And whatever you give thought to, you give life to. And in a greater sense, in another sense, that is what you are worshiping. So, you see, when you put that before God, then it is of little consequence. I trust that I have not confused you, and you did not misunderstand me about the little consequence.
I understood. I've been working with that in my meditations, like.
Yes.
Right. So,
This is a good class tonight. And sometimes we have a class that is different from the others. And be not concerned if we have a class sometimes that is not as good as you would like it to be. But know that everything has its place and its time. And you will be fed. And it is not coming to class that feeds you, but it is how you understand it. It is how you take it in. It is how you handle it. That is what feeds you. You feed yourself in your soul. I'm talking about soul food. You feed yourself with your thoughts about whatever is happening around you, or you take away from your soul food. And most on your plane at this time, their soul is starving. It is fed very little, and it shrivels up. And when they come to these dimensions, they have to be nurtured and healed and helped a great deal to even make a beginning here. Be grateful that you have this great opportunity, and take the opportunity to send God's love often, and let yourself be a beacon unto the world. This has been a beautiful evening, and I would not hold you longer, but let us cherish this time together. And when you have your quiet times, sometimes it is good to think of, when you have a meditation, to put yourself in your mind with your inner image in this circle of light, and think of sitting here in this circle of light and receiving a lesson, not the lesson that you get tonight, but from your teacher. And when you understand there's no such thing as time or space, you see, in your mind you can put yourself in this circle and you will be here. And there's much more power in a circle like this than when you are alone at home, because the power is multiplied as many times as there are individuals in the circle. It has been my blessed privilege to be with you in your language and in your thoughts and in God's love. And God blesses each one of you greatly, continuously. Remember this when you are troubled, and reach up for God's hands, reach up for our hands, and know that we are always with you. God bless you, and good evening.
After good. At the group, that we told the verb. Then at the go.
let us think of ourselves coming together in the physical as Nicole and know that we are bringing the spirit down to the physical plane, bringing God's love around this circle, and knowing that God's love, it is multiplied many, many times when we come together on this Wednesday evening. So let us see it going out to cover the city, cover the planet, and going out to the whole universe. Thank you, Father.
Collage, and the Collage study, and a strip feature.
How you do that? And then it
Gonna give me a vouchers on that the thank you.
Yeah, I would. Believe me.
is and then that they don't know it's good to feel me. It's not doable. As he secondly you cutting me or are you been that off to the beach.
Lincoln. That's it. And that great all out of some tape for that.
So and there's the book. Yeah, he's full on listening his banana daisy.
I'm on.
Little
All right.
I want it. And he's scared. But hey, there's a little girl almost wasting it. Oh yeah.